I was at my office in Boulder when my phone buzzed with a frantic call from my neighbor, Ethan. His voice was sharp, urgent, like he could barely process what he was seeing. Marcus, you need to get up here right now. 3 buses just unloaded a crowd at your lakeside property. They cut your chain, broke through the gate, and set up like it's their personal fairground. I swear, your land looks like a county festival. For a second, I thought he was joking. But then he added, Kara Whitmore is the one leading them. She's got a clipboard and is telling everyone this is an official HOA event. My stomach dropped. Kara was the HOA president of our community, notorious for her power plays and smug sense of entitlement. She'd always acted like the homeowners association owned our souls. But this, commandeering my private retreat, was something else entirely. I bolted out of my chair, yanked my keys from the desk, and flew down the hall like my office was on fire. The entire drive up the canyon felt endless, 2 hours of imagining the worst. When I finally reached the dirt road to my cabin, I had to park and hike through the trees because the road was clogged with buses and vendor vans. The moment I broke through the tree line, my lungs nearly seized. My quiet lake cabin was gone. In its place stood a carnival. A DJ booth was blasting pop music from my dock. 2 food trucks sat heavy on my lawn, their tires digging craters into the grass I'd nurtured for years. A bounce house was tethered into my flower beds, uprooting soil and ripping through the rose bushes I'd planted by hand. Kids screamed as they splashed in the lake. Families sprawled across my deck chairs, drinking wine like they'd rented a luxury resort. And above it all, hanging between 2 pines, was a giant vinyl banner. Thank you, Marcus Hale, for hosting the Lakeside Festival. The sight made my blood boil. My name was plastered across their fraud. They'd made me complicit in something I hadn't even known about until Ethan called. I pushed through the crowd, past vendors hawking jewelry from my picnic tables, past strangers treating my retreat like a theme park. People kept smiling at me, thanking me for my generosity. One father slapped my shoulder. You're a hero, Marcus. Kids need this kind of community space. His son was dripping wet, leaving muddy footprints across the deck boards I had refinished only last month. I finally found her, Kara. She was in the middle of it all, beaming like a queen at her coronation, clipboard tucked under her arm, barking orders to volunteers. When her eyes landed on me, she smiled like we were co-conspirators. Perfect timing, Marcus. Everyone, let's give a round of applause to our wonderful property owner who made this possible. The crowd actually clapped, oblivious to the fact they were cheering a man who had just been robbed. What the hell is this? I demanded, shoving my way closer. You broke my gate. You cut my chain. You invaded my property. My voice cracked with fury, but Kara didn't flinch. She simply raised her hand in a dismissive wave. Relax. Everything's handled through proper channels. Permits, insurance, approvals. You don't need to stress over details. We've made this partnership seamless. Partnership? I barked. There is no partnership. She handed me a folder like she was giving me a birthday card. Inside were insurance documents, permit applications, and a $20,000 payout approval for storm damage improvements. At the bottom of each page was my name, my signature. Except I had never signed a damn thing. You forged this, I said, my voice trembling now. Marcus, please, she cooed, like I was a confused child. We filed these together months ago, after the storm last winter. Don't you remember? I felt my head spin. My handprint was everywhere in those papers, but I hadn't touched them. It wasn't amateur forgery either. It was professional, like someone had studied my writing. For a moment, I actually questioned my own memory. Was I losing it? Had I somehow signed documents without realizing? But no. I would never, under any circumstances, agree to turn my sanctuary into a circus. Before I could process further, Ethan's pickup barreled through the broken gate, gravel spraying under his tires. He leapt out and stormed toward us, face flushed. I saw her cut your chain this morning, Marcus. Bolt cutters right at 8 a.m. She's been doing this for months. I've got photos. 6 months worth. He whipped out his phone and started scrolling. My knees nearly buckled as he showed me image after image. January's snow festival, February's Valentine's Day gathering, March's spring event, April's Easter egg hunt, May's Mother's Day bash. Every one of them on my land. Dozens, sometimes over 100 strangers trampling my property while Kara collected money at the gate. 6 months of organized trespassing while I sat oblivious in Boulder. Same buses every time, Ethan said, jabbing the screen. Same vendors, same setup. She's been making a killing off you. I turned to Kara, expecting panic, maybe shame, but her smile only faltered for a heartbeat. Then she straightened, lifted her chin, and said, "These are sanctioned HOA programs for community improvement. Ethan's just bitter." Before I could respond, a sheriff's cruiser pulled into my driveway. Sheriff Thompson stepped out, calm but wary, surveying the scene like he'd stumbled into a neighborhood barbecue. Kara waved him over like she'd been expecting him. "Perfect timing, Sheriff. You can clear this up. Marcus is just overwhelmed by our successful partnership." My stomach turned. She had prepared for this. Thompson flipped through the paperwork Kara shoved into his hands. The forgeries looked airtight, stamped and filed. He frowned at me. "Mr. Hale, these seem legitimate." It wasn't amateur forgery either. It was professional, like someone had studied my writing. For a moment, I actually questioned my own memory. Was I losing it? Had I somehow signed documents without realizing? But no. I would never, under any circumstances, agree to turn my sanctuary into a circus. Before I could process further, Ethan's pickup barreled through the broken gate, gravel spraying under his tires. He leapt out and stormed toward us, face set in a grimace. "Marcus?" He barked. "What the hell is going on? This place looks like a damn carnival. I gave you something your selfish neighbors never would." The gray-haired woman suddenly blurted out, "My name isn't Janet. It's Lisa Whitmore, Kara's sister-in-law. She dragged me into this. She threatened to ruin my husband's business contracts if I didn't help with the paperwork." The crowd gasped. Even the sheriff stiffened. Lisa's voice shook but grew stronger as she went on. "She forged everything. She made me sign things I didn't understand. She said if I didn't, we'd lose all our HOA referrals. She's been filing false claims, Marcus, legal filings, adverse possession papers." The word sliced through me like a blade. Adverse possession. She was trying to steal my entire property legally. The sheriff flipped through a manila folder Kara had kept hidden in her briefcase. Inside were filings labeled community access rights. Her own notes scrawled in the margins. 18 months continuous use equals legal ownership foundation. My jaw clenched in disbelief. She thought she could steal my land in under 2 years. She hadn't even understood that Colorado required 18 years. By now, the sheriff's patience was gone. He called in detectives. Within the hour, my property shifted from festival to crime scene. Yellow tape went up. Vendors were questioned. Families gave statements. Lisa handed over a USB drive of marketing files Kara had forced her to compile. Photos of each event, taken to prove community use for her legal scheme. The scale of it all was staggering. Kara had built a full business, contracts, mailing lists, profit charts, around my land. She'd pocketed nearly 50 grand and was planning to expand into a 6-figure resort venture. When the case went to trial, it became a regional spectacle. Families who'd brought their kids to the so-called festivals packed the courtroom, furious at how she'd used them. Vendors testified about the forged authorization forms. Lisa described the threats and blackmail. Ethan provided months of photos. The prosecution shredded her defense. Fraud, forgery, trespassing, conspiracy, tax evasion. The charges piled up. Kara's attorney tried to paint it as misguided community service, but the evidence was overwhelming. Bank statements showed unreported income timed perfectly with each illegal festival. Fake permits bore my falsified signature. When Kara finally took the stand, she ranted about how she had given the community what they deserved. She actually had the nerve to claim I was wasting my land. But the judge shut her down cold. "What you call service, Mrs. Whitmore, the law calls theft and fraud." The verdict was guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to 3 years in county jail, ordered to pay full restitution of $47,000 plus damages, and barred for life from holding any HOA position. Her husband filed for separation. Her house was sold. Her reputation burned. 6 months later, my property was whole again. The court-ordered restitution covered repairs and a new security system with cameras and reinforced gates. Ethan helped me rebuild the fence with stronger posts and steel reinforcement. I even carved a phrase into the wood above the latch: "Respect boundaries." Now, when I sit on my porch at dusk and watch the lake turn gold, I finally feel peace again. No strangers trampling my deck, no DJ shaking the trees, no HOA president scheming to steal what isn't hers. Just silence, water, and pine. Sometimes I still think about Kara's smug smile, the way she waved off my outrage as if rules didn't apply to her. But in the end, she learned. Handcuffs are excellent teachers.